hold on one second. Let me make sure I get the mic on. Okay, good. Alright, YouTube. How you doing? Today I'm bringing a very interesting episode. Unfortunately, a very strange occurrence has happened. We all remember our Sega Genesis games. Well, I had one in general today, which actually kind of really kind of brings back memories. This is only one of few. Hey, baby. Anyways, I have a very old Sega Genesis game, Classic, which is one of few. And unfortunately, it trailed. And the other thing, my Sega and my other Sega Genesis games, and my 32X, and my 32X games are in Massachusetts. I do want to point out today a very interesting but retro, old school video game. Some of us who are veteran gamers do realize this game or remember the old Sega games. And, well, I've been having this one in kind of storage, kind of not storage. And before I even show you what kind of game this is, bear in mind, this type of game is one that I haven't gotten rid of. I refuse to get rid of it. But anyways, yes, so today, before I even get into it, well, it's kind of embarrassing. I mean, me, somebody who's an old video gamer, who's followed through the old Sega Classics, excuse me, which everybody knows that PlayStation Network is going to eventually have them. Unfortunately, I couldn't do the dare, as I promised in my earlier video that was mentioned. And, well, brings a heavy heart to say, but I have this one video game right now that survived, I think, 2 to 3 moves. I know I'm dragging it out, and I should be just going with this already. Without further ado, I want you to meet, or I should say, something very old school, something that some of us who may or may not remember. So I'm just going to kind of like gradually show you. And yes, lo and behold, Golden Axe 2 from Sega Genesis, which is really interesting. I've had this thing. This is one of many of the games. Well, this one actually survived the move. The other ones we're actually getting rid of. And the really interesting part is, because this game is pretty old, and as you can see, I pretty much have the original cartridge and, of course, the instruction manual. You have to kind of pardon the wear and tear of over many years of trying to thumb through it, and then the thing. So I realized something when I was saying about my other videos about Golden Axe, and the funny thing is, every page in this, I mean literally every page in this, is still pretty much intact about how you get started. Of course, everybody remembers back in the day, when you had the Sega Genesis, as you can tell, and how they'd like say, you know, this is how you insert the game and whatnot. And the funny thing is, I've never really got rid of it. Between that and a few other old retro games I may have had, especially in the back of the instruction manual when they advertised certain games from Sega, which was the Streets of Rage. You know, we all remember. Some of us who've actually gamed way back yesteryear, who actually remember this. Actually, the funny thing is, I bought this, as you can tell with the serial number here. I actually, a long time ago in my old neighborhood, there was a video store called Paradise Entertainment, and they had the games for cheap, so I figured, you know, me being an original Sega Genesis gamer, I picked up Golden Axe, a few other games too back then, like Beauty and the Beast and stuff like that. Well, it's funny. Of all these years, I figured one day, what if I did something to show you one of my old games? But as you can tell, you want to talk about, like, for some veteran gamers, you remember the old cartridge gaming. As you can tell, the original, this is all legit. You can tell by the screws when they made the old cartridges back in the day. As you can tell in here, if you see right in here, all right, in this here, this is the old cartridge track, which some of us who do remember the original gaming, and of course the original grid, that's a Sega Genesis on it. It was really interesting. It followed me through during the past. It was an old Sega game before we had Xbox, and we still were in the cartridge era of Nintendo, Genesis, then we had 32X, and some of us who remember Sonic and Knuckles. And the funny thing is, it still got its original casing. Of course, it did say pre-owned. But then, back then, when you're at a game store or renting games, having a membership and buying these things under certain things, really interesting. The box art, I found very interesting, for its time back then. It was pretty damn advanced, considering. One of the few RPG games I remember playing. I remember playing the first one, which was the skeletons on the Eagle, were just cheap as hell. Would actually just kill you the moment you got on the Eagle. And then of course it's pretty much everything here, 1 or 2 players, which is the original co-op. Going back to certain things, certain aspects, you had your summon spells as indicated in the back of the box. So, with that being said, an original casing, not many people would really understand about the original Golden Axe, and hopefully I can bring back some more. A friend of mine, talking about original Golden Axe games and old RPGs, MMORPG kind of game based. Just as recent, there's been, of course you had the product seal of Sega, being affixed to classic video games, which Sony PlayStation is starting to reissue some of these Sega Genesis games, remastered. The only problem I have with the remastered versions of these games is the fact that there has been, I guess, complaints about the remaster and everything else that's been going on. Of course, being of that time frame and bringing back memories of genres, genre years for me, goes to show that my age does show. I mean, amongst everything else, collecting everything, stuff, back from yesteryear. I mean, I still have Bram Stoker's Dracula for the Sega. Like I said, all my old gaming systems, like my Genesis, my Nintendo, my old Nintendo cartridges, everything is all up in mass. I think at this point, not going to get them back anytime soon, because I think, not at this point, because they've been in storage for so long, they're not going to be any good. So, pretty much now at this point, I have my 360, my PS4, my Xbox One, and my PlayStation Vita, which I bought when it first came out. It was a new version, it was a 2nd gen version. I had the first, but the first one I had died on me. And I haven't been on my PlayStation Vita in a very long time. And being as a collector in certain things, like behind me is an old, behind me over here is actually my old Indiana Harbor belt. When I'm still a chain collector in some aspects, I still like to build model chains, that one actually survived its first move versus something like this that survived maybe my second move. Like I said, the Golden Axe 2 original box art, I don't think I'm going to get rid of this anytime soon. It's not really worth anything to anybody. If anybody tries to comment or tries to ask me, I've had friends of mine ask me about it, if I was going to sell it. I said no. If it was the first one, I still wouldn't sell it. And if it was my Nintendo, my Super Mario Brothers, not the combo pack, but I have the original Super Mario Brothers, and Jackal, and I did have Battletoads, but sadly, the person I lent Battletoads to, really didn't give it back, so I lost out on my Battletoads. I lost out on my, all my Mortal Kombat games, 1, 2, and 3. So as you can tell, being as old school gamer as I am, I mean, I still hold on to it. But anyways, that was kind of like pretty much the gist of my my old school gaming heritage. You know, make sure you check out some of my other videos that pertain to me playing Monster Hunter World or what have you, Dark Souls. As you know, the last video I did of Burnout 3, or Burnout Paradise, the remastered, I'm not airing that again. I thought that was a really, to me, I thought that was really garbage. Didn't like the little compassing. I didn't like the way it was generic. That's just my personal opinion. As far as anything else goes, it's kind of more now trying to look into other things for gaming. Like my Dark Souls gaming is still there. You know, I can still game well enough in Dark Souls, if not maybe a little better, but I might be a little bit rusty now. Stop playing it. The same thing I did for Grand Theft Auto 5. Probably tonight I might air another thing on The Sims. I don't know yet. And another thing that's really interesting to take notice is all the stuff I've collected over the years. Certain games I've kept because I thought certain games were cool, were actually pretty cool in my time, which kind of goes hand in hand with me being an ancient fossil. But for me being what I am now as an old school gamer who, strange enough, still games and still adapts to the new generation of gamers and whatnot and so on and so forth, it has been really good. Just talking about original Sega classic Golden Axe 2. But yeah, as far as me playing Golden Axe 1 and 2, there was like so many. I used to have like so many Sega games. So my whole thing about original classic Sega, especially Echo the Dolphin, was my favorite. I'm guilty of that one. Streets of Rage 1, 2, and 3. Golden Axe 1 and 2. Then, of course, you know, Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic 1, 2, and then Sonic Knuckles. And then the list kind of went on and on and on. Rocket Knight Adventures was another one that came out for the Sega. That wasn't too bad. I mean, if I had to play Rocket Knight Adventures again, I probably would do it all over. Maybe do it something all differently than I normally would. Like the same thing, Bram Stoker's Dracula back in the day was a freaking totally kick-ass game. The cinematics for it. I mean, back then, Sega, I mean, talk about advanced gaming at the time. But you had the really awesome cinematics from your first fight with the Stagecoachman, all the way to Vlad the Impaler, which was Dracula's final form. And it was really cool. Yeah, there was a Golden Axe 3. The sad part about Golden Axe, I I followed Golden Axe till 2, and then I got into playing Golden Axe Beast Rider. Now, Beast Rider, to me, was not what I particularly cared for. You didn't really play either character. You know, you didn't have the Barbarian, you didn't have the Amazon, you couldn't play the Dwarf, and you were like a different character on a Beast. I remember Golden Axe Beast Rider, but that was going back many, many years ago. The same thing that went for the Streets of Rage. I followed Streets of Rage from 1 to 3, beating all the games on those. And then there was original Mortal Kombat, which took off in the arcade. Then it followed through the Sega Genesis, and then everything else just kind of followed through. Well, the first one was the best, and I have to agree with that. And the part I didn't like about the first one, you go onto the Eagle. Now, some of us who remember going onto the Eagle, my friends always had this problem. Like, they would go to the Eagle, you know, fight their skeletons that were on it, but my friends were like, oh, you know, well, the skeletons are cheap. I was like, well, yeah, they were, but the Eagle, that part of that level was the best. That in the first stage. But I do remember that, you know, very well. And then if you want to talk about really going back into the 90s, away from the Golden Axe, there was also, if some of you remember War Gods and Time Killers, those were like, those games didn't last for very long. Sadly, they didn't make it. I don't even remember if they made it past through even the arcade, the gaming consoles. So, there was quite a few games I remember back in the day. I mean, if you want to jump back from Sega to Nintendo, going to Outrun and Spy Hunter and all that fun thing. I mean, just crazy, you know, following through like old video games during the 80s and the 90s. I mean, they're really, really good ones. Especially when SNK and Neo Geo came out with some really good ones too, like World Heroes and World Heroes 2. But by far, the only thing I like about Golden Axe 2 is the part you go to Death Adder's fortress, and there's those two headless knights. That was my favorite fight of all. Just to trick them and just to hit them, and that's all I did. I actually used the Dwarf more than the Barbarian or the Amazon. Neo Geo, yes. Believe it or not, I actually used to have the Neo Geo system. And sadly, I had one of my friends come over, and when I had the system, I had SNK Neo Geo. I had, you know, a few games like Samurai Showdown and Samurai Showdown 2, and quite a few others. King of Art of Fighting 1 and 2. Fatal Fury, 1 and 2. There was like a few others. Yeah. There were a lot of good games for Neo Geo. The system was expensive as all you can get out. It was like $700 for the system. And the games were just outrageously ridiculous. The graphics back then, I mean, they made the Sega Genesis run for their money. I mean, you can't compare the two, but I mean, you even had Sega Dreamcast. But even then, Sega Dreamcast was kind of like at that faulting point where it was going to die out. Oh god, yeah. Anything like that would play like 4 games. And back years ago, my old neighborhood, there was like a little variety store before I bought Neo Geo. There was a little variety store that used to have the big arcade, where it was like you could select like 4 games, 4 SNK games. You can pick whatever one you wanted. I thought it was like freaking awesome. Yes, very swappable, and that was the nice thing about it. But the thing is, for me, like growing up in that time frame, you know, between like Genesis, Atari. Then you go into like PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, 4, first generation Xbox to 360 to Xbox One. I do have a personalized PS Vita. I actually had bought before it even came out in stores, which had like an 80 gigabyte setup. So I had an 80 gigabyte memory card. You know what? I'll tell you something. When those games were big back then, I knew a lot of people. A lot of my high school friends, even my close friends would just, yeah. That and Super NES. Well, not really, but Super NES had some good Castlevania games at the time. I actually had tried to skip school, but then, back then, you had... Well, back then we had what they call a truant officer, so even if I were to skip school, a truant officer would find us. It was kind of like me and about a few other people would be like, oh, you just skipped school, so you come with us. Or we got sent home and we'd be under, like, being grounded and shit and couldn't do anything. Anyways, the whole thing is that, but playing games like that for many, many years was just something that I was good at. Thanks, I guess. But the thing is yeah, but for me being an old world gamer, I pretty much had a run of the mill. I mean, I used to like be part of like Nintendo Underground or something like that. No, PlayStation Underground and Nintendo Power. Hey, look, I don't know about Pigeon's female. No comment. Anyways, the whole thing is being a girl gamer. It is kind of interesting because, like, now I used to play a lot of Dark Souls, but now I'm actually playing a lot of Monster Hunter World. Between that and I did play Alien Isolation and Dead Space. The first Dead Space, but, that's not really saying very much. But, yeah, it was really good back in the day, for video gaming. For me it was. I thought it was really awesome. Couldn't tell you how many times I stayed home from school. Actually, there were times I was sick and I couldn't go into school, so I ended up staying home, jumping in front of the Sega Genesis or a Nintendo, and playing that continuous. I mean, it was good times back then, but I wasn't allowed to skip school because my family was like, oh, now you gotta go to school. Dude, really? Yeah, Pigeon, you're too much. Yeah. What am I gonna do? Oh, just my cell phone. Actually, I have a Droid Turbo too. Yeah, I got like about, I think like a year ago, because the other one I had was had died on me, and I thought it was possessed, and it kept going into like different things, like it was just playing music on its own and then shutting off when it wanted to and stuff. That's the one nice thing I like about you, Scum Geezer. I'm not on a PC. I'm on my PS4. Well, anyways, yeah, so that pretty much sums up everything about my original gaming. But then again, the one game that caused me and most of my other friends to almost like literally quit their jobs was EverQuest Online Adventures, and especially the Frontiers version. I remember that one, and a lot of my friends did that. Oh, actually, I tried Fortnite once. I'm not like it's kind of hit or miss with me. Like, I used to play Fortnite a little bit, start out, and then I got into Paladins. I was playing Call of Duty World War II. Hey, Ronnie. That's okay, because among the audience there is a moderator actually watching. Oh, I've seen a lot worse. I've even seen, well, I'll tell you one funny story. If some of you remember Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the first one, Modern Warfare, it was back years ago when I was on my my Xbox 360, actually, which is sitting beside my flat screen. There was a lot of gamers who played Modern Warfare, and a lot of them were just really, it was so funny just to hear them insult one another. It was just like, really, you're gonna insult one another? It was just, I was laughing. You know what? I've actually had my fill, of trolls, for a very long time, and I'm not surprised. But when it comes down to the truth of the matter, it's like when you get, well, yeah, pretty much, the majority of kids, yeah, that tend to be that way. Well, it depends. Yeah, it's the mental state, because when they're, we'll jump off the old gamings, but we will talk about that. I've heard horror stories about what goes on in PUBG. Don't even remind me on that one. It's just really weird. Some of you might know 8 Thoughts, who I just actually started to kind of like start to talk to him a little bit. But yeah, you have to kind of pardon the lighting a little bit. But then again, I'm not complaining. Kids. Anyways, hold on one second here. Crud. I can't even spell today. Okay, there we go. Anyways, to ignore the certain comments from the peanut gallery. Thank you, Scheme Geezer. Wow, I gotta try to remember that name. That's like that's a really awesome name. But anyways, so anyways, what happened is what was I gonna say? So I play Monster Hunter World now more than anything, just kind of like farming. But I mean, when you fight the, I botched this name up so bad. It's the Kalav Turoth or something like that. That new monster in Monster Hunter World is a bitch. But yeah, it was really interesting, playing a lot, and I think in my next video I should, but I've been kind of like really been cheating on Dark Souls 2 a little bit, back in the day. I actually have a strategy guide for it. Anyways, there was something else I was going to bring up here. Just to jump back on something, I know some of you people, some of you viewers right now, if you haven't checked out any of my other videos besides gaming, I've actually was going to launch off something. I think it was going to be about, it was supposed to be done like in 2017. I never launched it. But since I have you guys on here, and you guys have been really good sports, I have an extra treat today. Because, to me tonight, every Friday night, I always air. So, I always do a live air stream. So, I'm not going to talk about the old school gaming. Now, this is going to be an interesting thing, because most people don't realize that I actually, at one time, used to, well, right next to me, except my little dinosaur thing here kind of falling down. I got that during an I had gotten that right after my operation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show something special tonight, which I haven't done in a very, very long time. It's been kind of sitting here next to me. And I'm going to unload, well, I shouldn't say unload it, because that's kind of like not the best thing I should say. No. I have more, you know what? If you go into my channel and you look all the way down, there's a lot more streams about what I do. And there's so many mixed videos of what I do, which is really interesting. I have a very interesting thing I want to show. This was another thing that also came with me prior to my moving. Well, during my moving, I should say. So, without further ado, I'm going to show this this little thing, which not many girls would actually do. But I figured tonight is special because you guys have been really good. My my old TT01, and actually, believe it or not, let me give you guys a little bit of a sneak peek here. I'll try to set it down, but I can't really adjust the camera very well. So I'm just going to move the pins off. Originally it was called Lethal Angel, and it got changed out. So now at this point, as soon as I open it up, you can actually see all the wiring for the lighting. And then, now if I take the body off without trying to do any more damage to, trying to rip up everything else, I'll just take this off real quick. And, now, pretty much everything here was stock until I got my hands on it. So as you can tell, the driveline, all the metal flake, everything else. It was something that, that actually, I had built over in time. It was something... It is, I just haven't used it in like... I think the last time I used it was probably back in October, but I used it for night driving. So... But, it's pretty much, I spent a lot of money on it. Between my surgery and this. Well, actually in between. But I have another one that's kind of like hidden. And I'm not really going to show it at some point. So I'm trying to get it back in now, if I can. It's been... As you can tell, over at the tip here with the wiring, the antenna, my cat had a field day with that. So, that was pretty much it, as far as that goes for my TT01. But it is fast. I mean, it's not like an 80 mile per hour fast thing, which I kind of don't normally do. Yes, certain ones do. There was a one, just off topic, but there was one I saw in a catalog that cost over $1,000. You need an iPhone to run it, and then after you get the iPhone, you have to, it was like really weird, you had to do some stuff. It took 2 lipos. Yeah, actually the bigger the more powerful the motor is, the chances are that it'll suck the life out of the battery, which I actually learned that the hard way. Yeah, I actually have I have a very old classic. I was gonna run it today. I kind of did, but I didn't fully run it because it was a really old school RC10T, which is the first generation. That I'm saving for another time in the video. But there's not really much to really go by other than that. Besides being a gamer chick, along with driving RC cars, I mean, you know, that says a lot right there. But I think that's going to pretty much cover everything for tonight. Unfortunately, I'm kind of like running out of things to say, so it's really nice that, you know, a lot of you came on to my channel tonight. And I have to give a huge shout out because last Friday was awesome. I woke up and I turned my little phone on, and last Friday was it was really awesome because I had over 88 views, probably a little bit more as the time went on. But that's interesting. See, I was born only child, so I don't really have. Well, I do have a sibling, but it's really she's really a half sister, and she actually helped me through thick and thin when my father died. So, I mean, but for me being like an only child, I mean, I had one of my exes at the time had siblings and was making it sound like, oh, I didn't know anything about only child. I'm like, yeah, well, I know plenty about siblings, trust me. Scratch build is always the best way to go. Years ago, I actually knew somebody who built stuff by hand and worked out very well. Like, he used regular, I think, like basic plastic and some metal odds and ends here and there. And it usually works, but a lot of times, and if you go to like other RC channels for like driving RC cars, look at some of the race trucks that they do, because some of the race trucks, they actually put the directional tires in the opposite direction where they're supposed to be going forward. And it's like, oh, well, you know, nobody really cares about the directions. Like, yeah, they have to. I mean, do you see? Well, then again, I've seen people put tires on the wrong way on the car if they're directional. I can't even understand why people do that with an RC car. Like, change the tire treading to another direction. Instead of having the arrows going forward, they put them backwards. It's kind of like, you never knew how to change a tire? Come on, they're RC trucks, but I know, and no big deal. I'm not going to criticize about it because I've done some messed up things in my life too. But yeah, it's been really good for me. That's pretty much it for my video for tonight. But yes, check out my other videos. If you haven't yet, please check them out. You'll see various videos of what I do and what games I play and what games I don't, what I do and what I don't do. It's really interesting. Jesus. I don't think I've ever known. Where about in Europe are you from? So it looks like you paid £100 for a remote and battery. I knew it. One of my exes was actually from, well, he wasn't from the UK, but I had an ex of mine who lived in Belgium. So, I know Belgium, I know, like, I don't know if it's the same, you know. Oh, 20 years ago. What the hell was I doing 20 years ago? Oh, yeah. I was in high school. I was held back a year, because of, I did something I wasn't supposed to do in high school, and they told me I had to do, like, another year. Yeah, that's when the euro currency was a lot back then. Now it's kind of like, it's not a lot now than it was then. It's like, now it's like £100 is like nothing. And it's not really surprising because, but then again, the UK, anywhere in Europe you go to, the same thing that goes, like, you know, other countries you go to, everything is just like freaking better than here. So, and Summer Low tonight was just like, and I was supposed to do a dare tonight. I was supposed to do an actual dare. I was supposed to eat a can of squid, and unfortunately, that fell through. Oh God, a VHS. I haven't heard that. I actually do have a VHS. But I know exactly what you're talking about. My parents had one too. I remember the VHS systems were just like, yeah, you know, you had the, was it the VHF setup, where it's like you had to put it in the back and plug it in from the VCR to the TV with the the UHF or something like that. And I'm trying to find, like, one of my friends, speaking of UHF, one of my friends sent me a copy of EverQuest Online, because they were quitting EverQuest. They were from Europe. I think they were, like, from the UK or England. This is going back on PlayStation 2. So they sent me their game. Then they sent me, like, an adapter. It was like a European adapter for a European TV. And I had no idea what it was. And they're like, yeah, it's a UHF or something. And I was like, well, wait a minute here. I don't need this piece because I already had a setup. So, you know, and I do have the letter somewhere. I'll have to read it. It was from some really cool friends. I don't know where the letter is right now. Well, I do know where it is, but I don't want to get up from the office tonight to go and read it. I think I'm going to save it for the next video. I don't think there's anything else I can really remember or even think of to even say at this point. And just the fact that it's been, well, hold on here. It's actually really cool. You know, like I said in my other video from last night, I have to give a huge shout out to all of my European friends. Well, pretty much everybody in Europe, everybody in Asia, China, Japan, Thailand, China, I already said China, but pretty much everybody around the world. I have to give everybody a huge kudos. Whether if you're from Europe, or you're from Saudi Arabia, or you're from China, I mean, just everybody, you know. I believe that in my I'll be perfectly honest here, because on my channel alone, I actually welcome those who are from, like, other parts of the country. You know, just not specifically, you know, for the US. Because I want to have it where my video goes out there, you know, for everybody to watch. You know, there's equality here on my channel. Anybody from the UK, anybody from England, anybody from Asia, Anybody from the Middle East, the US, South America, Canada, are all welcome here on this channel. Because this is like, this channel here, my channel, is all about the love. So, yeah, so feel free to check out my next videos. I think I'm doing another one, not Monday. I think I'm doing another game stream channel. I think Tuesday or Wednesday. Yes, and you know what? I never, not once will I ever say no to somebody. Unless if they're a troll, then I have a right to have a mod to kick them. But, yeah, check me out on, if anything, you can always check me out, like, in Monster Hunter World, because usually that's where I hang out a lot. I'm usually, like, in the central hub, the gathering hub in the Monster Hunter World. There's a lot of things, most of my friends, you know, I'll probably, like, at some point, you know, I join up into random parties and stuff like that. That's the good. See down here. Yes, it is. And you know what? This morning, well, I'll put this out briefly because this morning I woke up really in a cranky mode. And I did an actual live game, and I had my camera on. I was really tired. I was like just trying to wake up. I was actually gonna do a tempered monster attack in Monster Hunter World. Unfortunately, the game kept giving me connection problems. So at that time, it was kind of like, okay, so Capcom servers are starting to act up. I got so pissed, I just ended the video. I was trying to figure out why the hell this was happening. So it was actually pretty interesting to know that, you know, this is what it was. Oh. I have to admit though, this Merlot is not too bad. It's a Livingston Merlot. Which is really good. Love Livingston. I've pretty much done every little thing there is possible. But anyways, thank you for watching. Yeah, sadly. It's one of those things, like, I kind of am... It's kind of hard to say exactly what I feel about everything that's happening here. It just, to me, it's not one of those things I don't... I'll put it this way. In case some of you are trying to wonder out, you know, I know everybody around the world hears about what's going on with the U.S. I'll put it out here, just to done deal it. I didn't vote for this person in office, so get that out of the way. I'm more of, well, I was trying to vote for Hillary. Yeah, that was sad. And, you know, I had a cousin of mine who actually worked across the street from the Twin Towers when that went down. And, you know, it's kind of like people like that don't understand that, you know, when you have ignorant people who think that having... I was working, but I do remember that. My boss was like, you know, at the time when it happened, my boss was telling us to watch the TV, and we turned it on. And I thought, because my cousin he was across the street from it. And when the towers went down, he was out to lunch. So by the time he got out of the deli, he saw the towers fall, he ran. It was all over. I mean, it was everywhere. I don't think if anything that if people say different about the Twin Tower attack, then that just means that they're not people. They're not, you know, they're really not very nice. And that's pretty much just how I feel. Like, okay, if you don't remember 9/11, then you obviously aren't very happy about anything, you know. I mean, you gotta show some kind of support, compassion, and everything else. No. They kept... The thing that got tiring after a while is like they kept doing the same playback loop. I remember that. They kept doing the same thing over and over and over. They keep playing it back to make it say, hey, look, you know, this is what's going on. So, but, you know, things like that happens, it happens. It's not, you know, I mean, I'm not going to forget it. That's going to be in the back of my mind for forever. You know, and many people don't realize that. It's like, why does it bother you that much? But I will make this very short because 2 days after 9/11, I had a reporter, you know, in a local newspaper come up to me. He asked me a very important question. He asked me a very important question, and he asks, what would you do if you had money? How would you spend it? If you had $1 million, how would you spend it? And I told him, I says, I give it to for charity to help, you know, pay for what happened with the people in the Twin Towers, 9/11. That escalated shortly after with the hate crime. Everybody who was a Muslim, you know, anybody who was Muslim American, it was a hate crime against them. And it was like, this is not what, you know, should not have happened that way. Yeah, that's what some conspiracy theories come up on that one. They say quote unquote inside job, but nobody really knows. But anywho, it's, people say it is, and some people say it isn't. And, you know, that's kind of like saying you're just pretty much. And that's what I said about the Branch Davidian compound. But anyways, yes, there is, but it depends on how you look at it. But anyways, this is it for my live stream. Thank you for watching. But yes, just check the just watch my other videos, and I'll be airing again probably like Tuesday, Wednesday, usually at that point. But anyways, I'm off. And thank you for watching. And this is Layla saying night night. Have an awesome weekend, and I will see you on the next video. Bye for now.